Back in the first video of this chapter, I said that the best way to avoid having the internet become a bottleneck in your application is by sending the fewest number of requests and as little data as possible between the browser and the server. In fact, these two concepts are so important that ASP.NET offers the system.web.optimization library, which provides utilities that help you reduce the number of files you need to send and make the files that you do send as small as possible. The two techniques it uses to do this are called bundling and minification, respectively. In this chapter, I'll show you how you can apply ASP.NET's bundling and minification tools to your site to make sure that content you are sending across the wire is as optimized as you can make it. The first technique we'll cover is bundling, or combining multiple files together into one single file or request. Bundling is helpful because, in addition to the fact that you are sending fewer requests, web browsers are very particular about how much they do at one time and in what order they do it. For example, most modern browsers limit the number of open connections to any given hostname to 6, no matter what type of files they are downloading. What's more, as browsers render a web page and come across style sheet links and script tags, the rendering comes to a complete stop while they wait for the file to download and its contents to be evaluated, or, in the case of script tags, its script to be executed. For instance, let's take a look at our demo application. Run the site in Internet Explorer and hit F12 to open the debugging tool. Then, go to the Network pane and start capturing the network traffic. Refresh the page to get a good look at the internet traffic that happens when you request your page. To really demonstrate the problems we're facing, I've added a bunch of styles and script files so that the browser has a lot to download and process. With all this in place, it's taking the page 180 milliseconds to download 25 items with a total of 2.78 megabytes of data. And take a look at the network timings. These gray areas indicate places where the browser is just sitting and waiting for those 6 other requests to complete before it can even start downloading the file. The yellow areas are sending the request and waiting for the download to begin. Then finally, the blue areas are where the browser is downloading the actual data. Notice how, in many cases, actually downloading the data represents just a small amount of the overall time that it takes to retrieve the file. The technique of bundling helps by combining files together to reduce much of this overhead that is involved in retrieving your site's content. Sure, the data in these combined files may be bigger, but when you take everything into consideration, bundling can be a huge win. Before I show you how to implement bundling in your site, let's first talk about the other technique called minification, since these techniques really go hand in hand. While bundling is the technique of combining files together to reduce the number of requests, minification is the technique of reducing the size of each of those requests. In other words, bundling concentrates on reducing those gray and yellow areas in the network tool, while minification concentrates on reducing the blue areas. When we're discussing minification in the context of a web application, we're almost exclusively talking about reducing the size of JavaScript and CSS files. The bonus is that these two syntaxes don't care very much about white space, so the first step in minifying them is to strip out all of that space and tabs, which is a big benefit right from the start. Then, depending on the algorithm that is used, additional techniques may be applied, such as replacing local variable names, names that only developers care about, with one-character names, along with plenty of other tricks like that. Thus, minification can drastically reduce the size of a file, making it take less time to get it from the server and load it into the browser. Now that I've talked about the concepts behind bundling and minification, let's go ahead and see how we can implement them in our application. There are 2 steps to implementing bundling and minification in ASP.NET. First, you must define your bundles, or which files you'd like to combine together. In an ASP.NET MVC application, this happens in the Bundle Config class in the App Start folder. Open this class and take a look. Inside, you'll find all of the bundles that Visual Studio has generated for us, along with the bundles that I created to hold my demo scripts and demo styles files that are currently being included in my page. Creating these bundles was easy. Simply add the add method to add a new instance of a script bundle object for scripts or a style bundle object for styles. First, we'll give the bundle a virtual path. This is the URL that we want to use to refer to our bundle. Then, use the include method on those bundle objects to specify the files that should be included in that bundle. The include method takes a list of relative file paths, but these file paths also support a few wildcard features. For example, I'm using the star at the end of my script bundle path to indicate that I want to include all of the script files in that folder that begin with demo script. Take a look at the folder to see that there are actually 8 scripts in there, and all of them are getting included with this one path. I could also apply this technique to my list of demo styles as well. Also notice the version placeholder used for the jQuery and jQuery UI bundles. This indicates to the framework that there is a version number in the file name, and you don't particularly care what it is. That means you'll be able to update the script and its version number without having to come back and change the bundling configuration later on. Now that these bundles are registered, how do you render them in your page? Jump to the underscore layout view and look for the @styles.render and @scripts.render calls. These two helpers allow you to tell ASP.NET where in your page you'd like to render the links to the bundles you've configured. Then you can give them the virtual paths that you configured in your bundle configuration. To see them in action, run the site again and view its source. Here on line 10 through line 16, we see all of our demo styles rendered. Then scroll down to the bottom and look at lines 107 through 115. These are the script includes for all of our demo script JavaScript files. Wait a minute though. I've been talking about bundling and minification this whole time, and this is just a list of our scripts. That's because we're running our site in debug mode. And bundling and minification are disabled in debug mode to make it more convenient to develop and debug your code. Instead, in debug mode, the framework just renders out the individual tags, like you can see here. To change that, open up your web.config file and find the compilation tag. In this tag, set the value of debug to false. Then, run your page again and view the page's source to see that all of the script and style sheet links have been combined into the respective bundles. Also, take a look at the network profiler one more time to see what a dramatic difference this has made in how long it takes to load our site. With these optimizations in place, we're now only receiving 1.08 megabytes of data in 10 items in 46 milliseconds. How impressive. In this video, I showed you what a huge difference applying the concepts of bundling and minification can have on even a small website like the demo application we've been building. And if you combine these techniques with the other techniques I've shown in this chapter, your users should have no complaints about how well your site performs.